Money. How does that word make you feel? Is it a rush of adrenaline, dollar signs running through your head like a slot machine? Perhaps you feel motivated, ready to send those work emails you've been putting off, or spend an extra hour writing that movie script that you're certain will be a hit. But maybe you don't feel so good when you hear that word. Maybe the mere mention of money causes your hands to go clammy, your heart rate to rise, and your brain to start doing somersaults around all the ways in which you don't have, need more, want more money. Whatever your response is, we all have one. Because, as they say, money makes the world go round. Whether it's your $5 coffee every morning to start your day or the $3,000 loan payment you just made, not a day goes by for most of us that we don't consume, spend, study, or merely think about money. You could be the driver of a sports car wearing a diamond necklace or the homeless person who watches that car drive by. On one level or another, money matters to us all. Yet for as much as money matters, it's surprising that there's so much we don't know about it, and a lot of things that we think we do that are just plain wrong. This is a crash course on how your world and the world of high finances intertwine, in hopes that, in the end, we know that much more about this illusion that keeps the economic world spinning. Contrary to what you might think, money as we know it today, at least in its physical form, has remained largely unchanged for millennia. The first sign of what we might think of as a banknote took the form of a piece of leather in China in 118 BCE, and 900 years later, paper currency came to fruition. It would be another several hundred years before this kind of currency would make its way to Europe and then the rest of the world. Centuries have now passed, yet the basic concepts invented by the Chinese aren't that distinguishable from what we have today. In fact, the only real difference is what these notes and coins represent. The first real global system of valuing currency was the gold standard, which began in England in the early 1800s. It tied a currency's value directly to the established value of gold. So in a country like the United States, $1 was pegged at exactly 1/50th an ounce of gold. This system was set up that, in such a way, ideally it would provide a stable monetary environment around the world. And it did for a while, but as with all natural resources, the supply of gold was not as fixed as we originally thought. As a result, countries began dropping it as a means to measure the value of the money. In 1971, US President Richard Nixon officially severed the convertibility between dollars and gold.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets.
By that time, the US dollar was seen as the global standard currency, so once the dollar was no longer dictated by the value of gold, pretty much nothing else was. If the value of the dollar is no longer determined by the value of gold, what exactly makes $1 worth $1? Well, instead of a commodity-backed system like the gold standard, we now have something called fiat currency, which has no intrinsic value and is instead backed by a government. What gives today's dollar its value is the economic supply and demand in the United States. And who controls that? Governmental financial systems. In the case of the United States, it has the Treasury and the US Mint in charge of printing its money. But as we can see in the growing number of digital businesses and iPads in place of cash registers, money printing is a dying business. So if a government isn't literally printing money, how exactly does cash come into circulation? The vast majority of money exists only as numbers on a computer, incredible amounts of money digitally credited to commercial banks by a country's central bank. This central bank controls how much money it deposits into the commercial banks based on the economic situation of the country. During the earlier stages of the pandemic in the US, some of that money was sent directly to bank accounts in the form of stimulus checks. But that's an extreme case, and most of the time that's not how the money ends up with us. Here's how it usually works. A central bank sends money to banks and credit unions nationwide, and they in turn distribute that money into the economy by lending it to their customers. Which brings us to the topic of debt. Around 80% of Americans are in some kind of debt, yet many people don't know what exactly debt is and how its moving parts work. What they do know, and what is backed by several studies, is that even the idea of paying off debt can be a severe emotional strain. No one wants to owe anyone anything, but with the cost of living vastly outpacing the money we earn for a living, loans are the necessity everyone hates, yet most can't live without. You get a loan to purchase your car, start your small business, go to college, or buy a house. Very few people can afford a house with the money in their bank accounts, yet all of us need a roof over our heads. So some people choose to rent, while others decide to take out a loan from the bank in the form of a mortgage. But banks aren't charity organizations, they're built to make a profit, and the way they do that is through interest. Interest is the amount you, the borrower, pay to use the money a bank or financial institution has loaned you. Think of it like the rent you pay on your apartment every month. You don't own the apartment, but you get to use it for a fee. In the same way, you don't own the money you use to purchase your house, but you get to use it for a fee. And this buy now, pay later model does not only exist for big purchases like a house and college. It has permeated our entire society, so much that most things we purchase now exist on this model. Especially since the creation of the credit card. Don't have enough cash for that new couch? Put it on your credit card. Want to get that new iPhone? Pay a monthly fee to your internet service provider. Heck, even consoles like the Xbox follow the same model. We now use credit to pay for even small things like a sandwich, a new pair of pants, or food for our dogs. If we pay our balances on time for those purchases, we can avoid the interest rates that credit card companies charge and we'll be fine. But for a lot of us, especially in hard times, we tend to build interest on our cards, which can quickly lead to a pretty bad spot financially. Credit cards can help provide a financial buffer in a bind if needed, but they also come with an element of risk. So are they worth it? There's some mixed feelings about this. Some people think that using credit cards is a surefire way to send yourself straight into sinking debt. But others see frequent credit card use as a way to build good credit, which, if you've ever leased an apartment or bought a car, is an important part of daily life these days. Whichever side of the fence you're on, one thing we can all agree on is that you need to be careful when using credit cards so that you don't overspend and dig yourself into much deeper debt than is necessary. By being wise with your credit, savings, and increasing your income, you can have enough disposable income to finally do with your money what every financially stable person suggests. Invest. Investing basically means committing your money to something to earn a financial return. It's making your money work for you. One mantra in the investing world is the greater the risk, the greater the reward. Investments like bonds are safer but offer lower returns, while investing in individual stocks can provide incredibly high returns, but are also extremely risky. And let's not even get started on cryptocurrency. We'll need an entire video to go over investing properly, but in the end, if we get the opportunity to do so, our goal is to build our wealth. To increase how much we're worth, and that's the entire point of money, to show how much something, or someone, is worth. How much is a carefree retirement to you? That will inform how much money you put away in your retirement account. What about a car? We might splurge on a luxury vehicle because it's worth it to us to enjoy the extra comfort and social status. The byproduct of this is that, as a society, we become obsessed with the idea of worth from material goods and worldly possessions, to personal worth and even that of others. Publications like Forbes and Bloomberg publish wealthy individuals' net worths, assigning a number to someone's success. To create these lists, dozens of reporters track down millionaires and billionaires all across the world, collect their personal information, add up all of their presumed assets, and subtract their liabilities. So if Jeff Bezos owns approximately 10% of Amazon, and we subtract his jet, his yacht, and any other creature comforts that he enjoys from that 10%, we should be able to identify his net worth. That simple addition and subtraction seems deceptively easy, doesn't it? Well, that's because it is. It's hard to get reliable data, and it's hard to figure out exactly where wealthy people store their money. Many of the wealthiest people in the world are investment bankers, but on a day-to-day basis, there's no way to know the composition of their firm's portfolios, which directly dictates the wealth of those who run it. There's also discrepancies when it comes to celebrities' wealth, perhaps where most of our obsession lies. Kylie Jenner was said to be the youngest self-made billionaire at one point, but her business isn't just valuable because of how much money it makes, it's valuable because she is involved with it. The business's worth is reliant on her involvement, her wealth is wrapped up in her business and vice versa. So the equation becomes even more complicated. I hate to break it to you, but most celebrities' net worths are basically guesses and not really an accurate portrayal of how much they control. So why are we glued to these lists? Are we ultimately comparing ourselves to the world's richest people, allowing ourselves to be fascinated by financial wealth at our own expense? The truth is, while learning about money and understanding how our economic system works will not guarantee you a spot on Forbes' billionaire list, it can give you peace of mind. Knowing a thing or two about money can help us see the world a little more clearly and not feel so overwhelmed by economic news. Because although having money isn't everything, not having it is. In October 2008, a paper titled "Bitcoin, a Peer-to-Peer Electronic Cash System" was published, announcing the creation of one of the world's first cryptocurrencies. This paper was written by Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin. Nakamoto then created a message board called Bitcoin Talk and wrote, "I've developed a new open source P2P eCash system called Bitcoin. It's completely decentralized, with no central server or trusted parties, because everything is based on cryptographic proof instead of trust. Give it a try." Obviously, people did. But who is Satoshi Nakamoto? The short answer is no one knows. There's at least one real person behind this alias, because someone wrote the code for Bitcoin, published a paper about it, sent emails, and made forum posts about the new digital currency, but beyond that, Nakamoto's identity remains a mystery. Some think it's Elon Musk, though he's denied the rumor. An Australian computer scientist named Craig Wright claimed to be Nakamoto and was awarded copyrights on the original paper published on Bitcoin in its early code, although the validity of his claim has been called into question by many journalists and lawyers who have followed him through multiple court cases. There was even a Japanese-American physicist named Dorian Nakamoto, who many thought might be the elusive crypto god, but alas, he insists it wasn't him. Perhaps one of the reasons that Satoshi Nakamoto will never come forward is because they own about 25 billion in Bitcoin. Bitcoin that has never moved, and sometimes anonymity is the only way to feel safe. It makes sense that one of the largest contributors to the cryptocurrency world would want to remain completely hidden from the public. After all, anonymity is one of the biggest selling points of the entire invention. Cryptocurrency are digital currencies that verify and record transactions to a decentralized blockchain. A blockchain is essentially an immutable public ledger. Once transactions are completed, it is final and irreversible, and every person on Earth can view it for themselves, despite not having an identity tied to it. It offers a way to move money outside of central banks and financial institutions, giving people a perceived sense of freedom and safety in their financial lives. But the reality is that although anonymity can give a sense of safety to some people, it can also be extremely dangerous. The anonymity promised by cryptocurrency isn't only appealing to those who are skeptical of traditional financial institutions, it's also a useful tool for criminals, dangerous people who want to bypass banking systems and move money anonymously. Dealers and users buying and selling drugs and even darker illegal goods on the internet, while avoiding the watchful eye of law enforcement. This works because although all transactions are tracked and recorded, there's no personal information tying an individual to their crypto keys. It's just a random hash of numbers and letters, hardly representing any information at all. This has led to terrorists, people involved in human trafficking, and drug dealers to seize upon the technology for nefarious gains. The Silk Road, one of the most famous online drug markets on the dark web, used crypto for its transactions. The US Justice Department has also dismantled at least 3 terror finance campaigns that were soliciting cryptocurrency funds. The rise of cryptocurrency has fueled growth in global ransomware attacks, which have seen a 485% increase in recent years. In 2021, the FBI seized $2.3 million worth of crypto from the R-Evil ransomware group who hacked US security and IT management software provider Kaseya. Not only do these cyber hackers demand crypto as payment, but crypto makes their whole business possible. And it isn't just large companies that have to watch their back. Online crypto scams coercing people to invest in fraudulent crypto funds or fake cryptocurrencies are rampant. Last February, Satish Kambani of India, the founder of BitConnect, was indicted by the US Justice Department for creating and running a fraudulent cryptocurrency investment platform. The Monetary Authority of Singapore suspended a crypto coin illegally named after the world-famous South Korean boy band BTS. And after the success of Netflix's Korean hit Squid Game, scammers used the series' popularity to create fake crypto coins. The value of the coins skyrocketed 310,000% in just 11 days, which does sound appealing. The catch, though, is that this coin is what was known as a honeypot. Essentially, you were able to purchase it, but you weren't able to sell it. Because of this, you traded your dollars for this Squid Game coin, and the scammers escaped with millions in cash from unwitting investors, leaving them with a token that couldn't be sold and is literally worthless. Now, you might say, well, scams happen at all financial institutions, and you'd be right. But at least with many third-party backed institutions, you get protections that crypto just doesn't offer. If your regular credit card gets hacked, you'll usually get your money back since your bank or financial institution has consumer protections. With crypto, those protections don't exist. So when hackers get access to your private keys, or you get scammed into buying a fake coin, or you invest in a fraudulent exchange, Once you give them your crypto, it's gone forever. In 2021, there was a reported $3.2 billion in crypto stolen, a 516% increase compared to the year before. And as new technologies involving crypto and blockchain technology become more popular, a new wave of crypto and NFT scams will inevitably rise. One of the most popular beliefs of crypto and NFTs is that you can make a lot of money trading them, but every experienced financial advisor and trader will tell you that trading isn't a great way to earn a regular income. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are blockchain-based tokens that represent a unique asset like a piece of art, music, or other digital content that can be purchased with cryptocurrency. They're meant to give artists more control and freedom over their work, but we don't live in an ideal world, do we? Although NFTs were, in a sense, invented in 2014 with the creation of Ethereum, the real NFT revolution began to boom in 2021. With the help of artist Mike Winkelmann, also known as Beeple, his digital artwork Every Days, the first 5,000 days, sold for $69 million and helped put NFTs on the map. Since then, artists and collectors at every scale have benefited from the creation of NFTs, but they've also experienced the same rampant scamming in all areas of the crypto world. A crypto investor who goes by Metacoven bought Beeple's NFT for $69 million in 2021 and also happens to be the owner of the world's now largest NFT fund, which studies data to provide analysis on various NFTs. Is $69 million a lot to pay for a digital piece of art? Yes, but what if it brings in far more than $69 million to your business? Some say that Metacoven's purchase of Beeple's NFT allowed him to drive up prices in his own NFT business. NFTs have, in a sense, become a game of who can tell the most believable lie. It was once reported that an NFT called CryptoPunk 9998 of a white-haired, green-eyed pixelated character sold for $532 million. It was set to be the most expensive NFT of all time, until it turned out that the buyer and the seller were the same person, creating a fake valuation for their own benefit. In the crypto world, since buyers and sellers remain fully anonymous on the blockchain, the wallets involved in the transaction are known, but who they're owned by is not. However, due to the open nature of cryptocurrency, anyone could check the chain and see for themselves that these two wallets had interacted in the past. If overestimating the value of digital art was the only problem, then maybe NFTs wouldn't have such a terrible rep. I mean, who even determines the worth of physical art anyway? Sadly, with NFTs, overestimation of value is just the beginning. NFTs are embroiled in more scams than you could possibly imagine. In February of 2022, a small but reputable NFT marketplace, Cent, had to suspend sales after rampant fraud was discovered on the platform. Its users were minting counterfeit digital assets despite the marketplace's best efforts to ban them. This is just one example of issues around the authenticity of crypto art and reinforces one of the most popular sayings in crypto. Don't trust, verify. With an entirely public blockchain, you are entirely capable of checking every single transaction you make to ensure that what you're purchasing is coming from the original creator. Unfortunately, many seem to forget this crucial part of what makes cryptocurrency important. In another example, someone sold a fake Banksy NFT for over $300,000. One of the specifically dark sides of NFTs is that people who get into digital art for creative purposes are easily exploited. Enthusiasts communicate on apps like Discord, Twitter, and Instagram, but these same apps allow hackers to lure ignorant NFT aficionados into scams by using fake links that look like an opportunity to mint NFTs for cheap, get free airdrops, and much more. The targets are asked to invest their crypto into NFTs that won't ever be created, and then all of that money just disappears from their wallets, never to be seen again. Even Beeple's fans haven't escaped unscathed. In May 2022, scammers hacked Beeple's Twitter account and stole $438,000 worth of crypto and NFTs from his followers. They impersonated the artist, claiming to have launched a new line of digital art with Louis Vuitton, and posted a raffle for the fake collection in his Twitter bio. The hackers used a phishing scam, deceiving people into revealing sensitive information or unknowingly installing malware. Once they clicked the link in his bio, all the crypto and NFTs in their wallets were completely wiped out. The fragility of the crypto universe was clearly evident in the recent collapse of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. FTX was the brainchild of Sam Bankman-Fried. He was the founder of the quantitative trading firm Alameda Research in 2017, and then FTX 2 years later. As the majority owner of both firms, there was initial concern over his conflict of interest, but he assured people that they were separate entities. Fortunately, that turned out to be a lie. Contrary to what Bankman-Fried said, FTX used its customers' money to fund risky bets made at Alameda. They would take customers' deposits, sell them on FTX to regular traders, and then use the cash to invest in other companies. To take it even further, these companies they invested in would often be forced to store their treasuries and accounts on FTX, where the funds could then be used again by Alameda, and the snowball continued to roll. On November 6, 2022, the world's largest crypto exchange Binance, which was also a leading angel investor in FTX, said it would unload hundreds of millions of FTX tokens. This was also around the time a leaked balance sheet came out showing that the majority of FTX's collateral was in their own FTX token. As you can imagine, if Binance were to sell hundreds of millions of this token, it would drive down the price and in turn drive down the value of the collateral that FTX held, collateral that was supposed to be customers' assets. An OTC or over-the-counter deal was offered by Alameda to purchase them at $22 a token. But this wasn't taken. The market called their bluff, and within 48 hours, FTX's token was down 93%. Days later, the US Securities and Exchange Commission and the Justice Department began investigating FTX, and on November 11th, Bankman-Fried resigned from both companies, and FTX filed for bankruptcy. In many ways, the FTX collapse seems like a traditional financial catastrophe, the kind we saw during the 2008 financial crisis, but crypto, with its promise of anonymity and its assurance of no go-betweens, makes the FTX disaster very different. Millions of dollars in FTX funds were stolen during the bankruptcy process. No one knows by whom. The collapse of FTX has led other crypto exchanges to tout their cash reserves and call for greater transparency because, even if you're not out there buying and trading crypto, you know it's had its fair share of pretty bad PR moments. And just a couple weeks ago, one of the largest banks backing crypto clients, Silvergate Capital, collapsed during the disastrous Silicon Valley bank run. Silvergate got into the game very early and was willing to work with many tech and crypto companies, which led to a $6 billion valuation in 2021. But as they say, oh, how the mighty have fallen. And the loss in value isn't the only narrative that needs damage control. As crypto has grown in popularity, especially amongst young people, environmental concerns around what it takes to sustain the industry have become widely discussed. In 2021, Cambridge University researchers calculated that Bitcoin mining was using more electricity than the entire country of Argentina. This huge carbon footprint of blockchain technology has alerted people, especially those who care about sustainability, to crypto's sizable contribution to climate change. However, the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance estimates that Bitcoin uses just over 100 terawatt-hours of energy per year to facilitate transactions and keep the network running. In reality, this is actually less energy than what is used for gold mining in a year. In fact, the iron and steel industry uses over 10 times this amount of energy on an annualized basis. If Bitcoin was a country, in terms of energy usage, it would rank 32nd out of 59, tracked by the Cambridge Center. So yes, while Bitcoin mining does use quite a bit of energy, it is far from the biggest problem on this front. What effect this will have on the future of cryptocurrency depends on people's continued desire for the anonymity that crypto provides. The anonymity that allows you to transact back and forth anonymously with anyone is the same anonymity that allows criminals to run rampant and scammers to run off with millions. It's a double-edged sword. However, it's getting easier for investigators to track crypto exchanges by deciphering patterns in the blockchain. There's a small group of detectives who have begun tracing cryptocurrency crimes for law enforcement agencies, and a crypto tracing firm, Chainalysis, has emerged to find these patterns. They find groups of blockchain addresses that come from a single person or service, follow the money from those clusters, watch it move, and eventually figure out which exchange the money came from. In the US, crypto exchanges are legally required to retain identifying information about users under KYC rules, standing for Know Your Customer. So the promise of anonymity, the one that the entire argument of crypto hinges on in the first place, isn't always so certain. There are currencies on the market that appear to be more untraceable than their competitors. Monero, which has been adopted by dark web markets, claims to be untraceable. Zcash is another that gives even the best tracers trouble, leading many to fear it will provide safe harbor to criminals and people evading taxes. The question is, will law enforcement and other agencies be able to catch up as new blockchain tech is created? So far, they're not doing too badly. In 2021, criminal investigations by the IRS seized over $3.5 billion in cryptocurrency, There was a $56 million seizure by the Justice Department, and $2.3 million was seized from the ransomware group behind the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack, which alerted the American public to the real potential danger of these cyber criminals. Then in 2022, a New York-based couple was arrested for laundering money they'd stolen by allegedly hacking a large crypto exchange, Bitfinex. They had turned some of the money into the apparently untraceable Monero, but law enforcement apparently could trace it and found exchange accounts in their name. They found the private keys of a wallet holding over 100,000 Bitcoin and seized it, being worth about $3.6 billion at the time. To this day, it's not known if or how these addresses were tracked. However, one thing is certain, and it's that this was the largest cryptocurrency seizure in history. So while crypto has its positive aspects for those seeking complete control over their finances, its trustless and anonymous nature requires extreme caution, because the negatives can cut quite deep if you aren't careful. If you are going to get involved, be wary of scams, hold your own keys, and remember, don't trust, verify. Governments across the globe continue to look at how to regulate cryptocurrency before it gets too out of control by their measures. Unfortunately for them, bureaucracy tends to move very slowly, while technology, especially crypto, moves at breakneck speed.
Money. Our lives revolve around it. We all want it. We know we all want it. Most of it doesn't even exist beyond the heavy-duty servers of some bank. And yet, the pursuit continues for this elusive thing. Despite its presence in everyday life, despite the fact that we spend most of our waking hours working towards money, it's still somehow taboo to talk about. We like to pretend that money is not important to us. And sure, money is not the end goal. In fact, one of the most common regrets of people on their deathbeds tends to be that they worked too hard, chasing after money, of course. For all its value, however, money still can't buy you a meaningful relationship or an experience. But while money can't buy any of those things, it can make them more accessible. Is happiness not easier to achieve once you know the bills are all taken care of? Is happiness not easier to achieve when you are able to give a loved one something you know they deserve? At the very least, more money often equates to more choices in terms of how you want to spend your time, whether that is with your loved ones or in chasing a passion you had as a kid. And even if you disagree with everything I just said, in order to change the world, you will still need the backing of financial capital. Now, with that said, and hopefully having navigated through the awkwardness of introducing such a topic, let's cut right to the chase. How much money should you be making? How much is enough? And mind you, there is a very good reason to ask such a question. This is not just for curiosity's sake. Studies show that when you have actually put a metric to a goal, and maybe even written it down, you are more likely to achieve it. People who vividly picture a goal are 40% more likely to successfully achieve it. So, how much? What does the literature say? Well, the relationship of money and happiness is a complicated one. First of all, emotions are generally hard to track, and second of all, this question has not been researched all that much. However, anyone talking about this topic has to bring up a piece of literature from 2010, authored by Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton. Their paper looks into the relationship between income and happiness, but it goes a bit beyond that. The authors decided that simply looking into one metric as a measure of subjective well-being would fail to capture the complete picture and confound the findings. So they looked at two things: emotional well-being, which is defined as the day-to-day satisfaction, and life evaluation, defined as the thoughts that come to mind when one thinks of life as a whole. You could also think of emotional well-being as the sort of short-term happiness, and life evaluation as the long-term happiness. Now, what did the research find? It turns out, life evaluation rises steadily with income. The more people earn, the more positively they tend to think of life in general. Emotional well-being, on the other hand, seems to plateau after an annual income of around $75,000, meaning till that figure, for the majority of people, each bit of raise in income will feel great. But after it, your day-to-day happiness won't go up by that much. So, there it is, right? That's the magical number. Well, not quite. For one, this is a study from 2010. Because of inflation, today that amount is closer to around $93,000. And I should also mention that this study was conducted with US residents as participants. What is considered a good life will definitely vary drastically in other parts of the world. Let's get that right. Just recently, in the first few weeks of 2021, researcher Matt Killingsworth published the latest findings on the very same question. How much money should you be making to be happy? His findings? Experienced well-being continues to rise even beyond the coveted $75,000 mark. And not just that, it continues to rise just as steeply as before, meaning the return on investment isn't any worse off the more money you make.